When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can seem intense. Like breakup R&B intense.
I thought you said you loved the sweater that I got you. If you didn't, you could have told me.
Geico makes it easy. Just go to Geico.com anytime to update or check your policy without all the extra drama.
I even had a gift receipt.
Blog Talk Radio.
Even with the sexting allegations, the criminal case could come down to one main question for the jury. How could Ross Harris have not noticed his son on the short drive to work that morning or when he came back to his car later that day?
It's a question the Fox 5i team originally investigated in the days after the tragedy 2 years ago. Fox 5i team reporter Randy Travis returns now with this preview of the state's key arguments here, Randy.
Yeah, Tom and Lisa, while many of us say we would never, ever forget our children in a hot car, since the beginning of the century, nearly 600 have died just that way, according to the advocacy group Kids and Cars. Here's why prosecutors believe what happened to Cooper Harris was no accident. 1 month after Cooper Harris died in his dad's hot car, the Fox 5i team watched as Cobb County investigators tried to reenact those horrible conditions. On a similar 90-degree day, with Ross Harris's 2011 Hyundai Tucson parked in the same spot near his office, investigators measured the inside temperature rising to as high as 130 degrees, according to a law enforcement source. Notice how close Cooper's car seat is to the driver's seat. Cooper's head would have been only inches from his dad's elbow, who insists he forgot he was there. This is lead detective Phil Stoddard from the preliminary hearing in 2014, talking about their reenactment with a mannequin.
The head was clearly visible, poking up over the car seat.
And did that demonstrative A, was that actually a little bit shorter than Cooper?
Yes.
Father and son would share their final meal together at this Chick-fil-A only minutes away from Harris's office as he headed into work that morning. What Harris did next made investigators even more suspicious. After he left Chick-fil-A, Ross would have to make a left on Pace's Ferry to take Cooper to daycare. But it's at this point that he's telling investigators he forgot his son was right here, and he ends up going straight. That decision would have come only a few minutes after he had put Cooper into the car seat, kissed his son, and drove out of the Chick-fil-A parking lot. Defense attorneys are expected to argue Harris could have been distracted because evidence shows even during his last meal with Cooper, Ross Harris was texting with women. Nearly 7 hours after he left Cooper inside that car, Harris would get back behind the wheel to drive away with the windows closed. Yet even then, Harris says he did not realize what he had done and drove out of the parking lot. According to his statement to authorities that was released during the hearing, he has not noticed his dead son in the back seat, even at this point, more than a mile down the road. Prosecutors have argued the stench inside the car should have been immediate, a smell investigators say they noticed after arriving on the scene that fateful day. But other experts suggest it would have taken much longer for such a smell to materialize. And one report raised questions about whether Ross Harris actually had any sense of smell at all. Now, Harris faces both malice murder and felony murder charges. Malice murder means he meant to lock his child in that car to kill him. Felony murder means Cooper died while in the commission of another crime, cruelty to children. Ross Harris leaving his son in that car seat on a hot summer day in Georgia.
Very, very interesting case. And you said 600 children have died this way since the year 2000. How many of those parents drove more than a mile before they realized that their child was in the back seat?
Yeah, Amber Rollins is the director of Kids and Cars, and she says it's not uncommon. She says that just like in the case of Ross Harris here, that people get in their car at the end of the day and they drive, well, to daycare, thinking they need to pick up their child, not realizing that their child is dead in the back seat. She says it happens more than we might think.
So many, the whole thing is so unthinkable.
Yeah. How many of those parents convicted of murder, though?
She says none. This would be the first prosecution of anyone. She says there's been no evidence up until now that anybody intentionally left their child in a car to kill them.
All right. Randy, thanks.
Okay.
You can depend on us for complete coverage of the raw.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the King Jordan Radio 4, Season 5, Episode 7, October 20th, 2016. Tonight we'll weigh in on the ongoing trial of Justin Ross Harris, as you heard the earlier clip. We'll also talk about Billy Bush / Donald Trump. Did he get a fair shake when he was let go of in the NBC network? The man who shot George Zimmerman gets 20 years. We'll talk about that. New York Knicks guard found not guilty in the rape trial in the civil case. We have 3 awesome guests that we're going to bring to you. One is a defense attorney out of Phoenix, Arizona. He makes his return. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the program, Dwayne Cates. How are you, Dwayne?
Hey,
Good evening.
Jordan. I'm doing great. It's glad to be back on the show.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. Let's welcome back to the show. He is a forensic expert. He's seen all over the place. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have back on Joseph Scott Morgan. Good evening, Joe. How are you? Joe, do you hear me? Okay, we'll try to get back to you.
Again.
Joe?
Yeah, there you go. Can you hear me now?
How are you? Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry. Yeah, a little technical difficulty this evening. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on board, and hi to all the fans out there, and to my colleagues this evening. Great to be back.
No question about it. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, he is a New York City defense attorney, also seen on the CNN network. He is Alex Sanchez. Good evening, Alex. How are you?
Jordan, how are you? And it's great to be back with your distinguished guest, and I'm looking forward to a great night with you folks.
No doubt about it. The big trial everybody's talking about in the news, and I want to go to you, Joseph Scott Morgan, first, is the hot car death trial with Justin Ross Harris. Give me a take on it so far.
It's been quite interesting. I've been covering this with Vinny Politan in Atlanta on Channel 11, and it's hard to watch, to be quite frank, and I kind of expected this. It's grueling, not just for obviously having to be in the jury box for this thing and sit back and watch this very sordid tale, kind of unfold. We've heard a lot of testimony thus far about Justin Ross Harris's activities relative to the day in question. The videography of him entering and exiting what's referred to as the treehouse, which is the Home Depot corporate headquarters where he worked. I was on that particular day, and that was kind of striking to see him walking out, holding his phone in his hand. It's lit. He's texting, and I think that for a lot of seeing that, what was at least being implied by the prosecution and demonstrating that in court was kind of they're trying to paint him in a very cold light, and also raising the specter of contact with other people other than his wife, and that he wasn't focused on his child. And then throughout this week, we've heard very scientific testimony. Earlier in the week, we heard first the ME investigator talk about what he saw at the scene with the baby, and then Dr. Frist testified regarding the findings at the autopsy. You could see Harris break down in court as he was forced to take a look at these images of this child on the autopsy table, which is very difficult to do. And then we had the police testify to the temperature in the car, which I thought was rather compelling testimony. The temperature, I think that getting into a hot car, but when you combine the findings of the ME along with this kind of hard data relative to temperature, it really struck a chord, I think, in the minds of a lot of people that were watching this trial. So moving forward, we'll see, what other kind of data, kind of surfaces these women that he's been, in contact with, attitudes relative to Cooper's mother. It's all very striking. It's just kind of unfolding right before our eyes right now.
Dwayne Cates, as an attorney, you represented many people. What do you make of this case?
Well, this is a really tough case for the defense because I tell people when they're in trials all the time, that trials are more about perception than they are about reality, and the picture that the prosecution's painting of him is just horrible with these sexting with a 15-year-old girl and he's cheating on his wife and but that evidence cuts both ways. I mean, that could be the sexting and the being on the phone could be the distraction as to why he didn't notice his child in the car. But then again, the perception of that by itself is horrible. It's probably a legal defense to malice and felon, in that he just wasn't, that he just lost track of time and was doing these other activities, but the activities themselves make him look like a dirtball, and the jury's just not going to like him.
Very fair point, Alex Sanchez. You've been on top of this trial for the last long time. Any difference in your feelings?
I think Dwayne, just completely hit it on target there. This trial's really, it's like a morality play being played out in a criminal court, because making everything fuzzy and unclear and confusing is the fact that he was engaged in this sexting stuff. If he was engaged in like any other activity, if he was doing business work or accounting work, or he was trying to contact relatives or some other cause that most people think is legitimate, would he be on trial here? But the fact that he is engaged in some form of degenerate activity with 15-year-olds and he's got all these prurient interests and, sexting pictures, I believe that greatly influenced the prosecutor in this case. It tilted the scales. Quite often, it's a close decision-making process, and because he was engaged in that type of behavior, prosecutors said, this guy's a dirt, let's just go after him. But the ultimate question is this: did he intentionally want to murder his kid? That's number one. And if he did not want to intentionally murder his kid, did he engage in some form of gross negligence? And Dwayne hit the nail on his head. He may have been so distracted, as anybody could be, by anything, that he simply forgot. And if that's the case, he should be found not guilty of the charges there. And that's what the jury's going to have to grapple with here.
Do you find any way that you could humanize him, Alex?
Yeah, of course. I mean, as Dwayne said, and I give Dwayne a lot of credit out there, and he's picked up a lot of good points out there in Wyoming. I think that's where he comes from. But the fact,
well, I'm in Phoenix now, but yeah, I am from Wyoming.
Yeah, but you got that Wyoming blood in you. You know what I mean? And just look. You can be distracted. You could say, okay, the defense should probably be, all right, this guy's he's a grown man, but he's really a kid. He's got these prurient juvenile interests. He shouldn't have been doing this, but he did do it. It doesn't make him a murderer. It makes him a dirtbag. And if you want to convict him of being a dirtbag, fine. But he's not on trial for being a dirtbag. He's on trial for being a criminal. And he's going to have to live with this for the rest of his life. There's no escaping that. But we're not on trial for dirtbagism. We're on trial for murder or criminally negligent homicide or some other criminal statute. That's the only legitimate defense that could be advanced in this case.
And I thought about why wouldn't you fight to keep these sexting things out of the trial? But he needs them. That's his defense. So it's like, what do? You're just stuck.
Caught.
Maybe he could have.
Caught.
And it's not outside the realm of possibility, although I think it's highly unlikely that he could have somehow made an application called a motion in limine, but basically means you're trying to limit certain testimony from coming in. But basically the testimony you want to limit is the content of what it is he was supposedly texting about. In other words, the prosecution should be allowed to bring in the fact that he was engaged in some type of texting, but not bringing out the fact that he was engaged in sexting. But more likely than not, that application was made, and it was probably denied by a judge.
Very possible.
And Joe Scott, what you're seeing, tell me what you're seeing. It's still the prosecution's case, right?
Yeah, at this point it is, and I'm going to be very curious, kind of dovetailing with Alex and Dwayne relative to this humanization of this guy. What is the defense going to bring to bear as far as clinical experts that will talk about his engaging in aberrant sexual behavior? If that, and they're the defense guys, so they're more tuned into this. But as an observer, I'll be very curious to see if they could take this and kind of paint it into almost like some kind of a sexual obsession that this guy has that's so distracting that it takes his focus off of things that are so important, like children. And this is a tactic that you see, I think, a lot in on the part of the defense when they're trying to sway a jury. The more egregious the crime, the more dark this thing is. Sometimes it works to the defense's strategy in that they'll say, look, obviously this person is affected some way, emotionally or mentally, where they're incapable of making right decisions. I'll be real curious to see if the defense goes down that road as soon as this thing's handed off to the defense.
Well, I don't think they are going to go down that road, because you're walking a terrible tightrope there. Because if your defense is going to be, calling psychiatrists or psychologists or some other experts to say this guy is some pathetic degenerate. He's so degenerate and he's so into child sex and that, he was distracted. That's not going to go anywhere. Jurors are going to say, the hell with this guy. I think that the defense should probably be to try to minimize it and say, all right, he was on the phone with this girl, he got a little carried away, he got distracted. Try to minimize it. But you try to minimize it and at the same time say he got distracted. But if you overemphasize it and try to make him look like some, pathological degenerate, you're going nowhere in this case.
Yeah, they would call it the pedophile defense. I don't know that I would want to employ that. I don't think that's going to get you good favor with the jury.
That's specifically why I defer to you guys in something like this, because I don't. I got to tell you, this is a real dark corner that we're walking into here in this case. I think you guys will concur with this because you're talking. The lady on the tape Jordan played where she's talking about the 600 deaths that have occurred, would people really get their mind around this thing? And I think that for me at least, when you begin to see the ugliness of this, is that it goes to this idea of modality, that he didn't choose a gun, he didn't choose a ball bat, he didn't choose a lethal injection or rat poisoning, he chose heat.
Well,
and when you strip it down to that level, it really turns him into a monster at that point in time.
If they can prove that he intentionally did this, you're 100% right. But that's also you'd have to believe that he's that depraved of an animal that he did this on purpose. So again, it's also a defense. You know, if they find him guilty, I mean, they're gonna hang him, okay? But again, I mean, I would argue that in closing arguments that he's got nothing else in his life that would indicate that he's this kind of guy that would do something like this. You know, I mean, he's not at home killing animals in his backyard or anything.
Right.
I mean, he's a relatively normal guy, and I live in Arizona where something like this happens every year. Every year we have a hot car death. So, it's not like it's something that just doesn't happen.
And Dwayne, if the defendant was a woman, do you think it would be much easier, much better chance to get a acquittal?
Well, yeah, unless she was sexting with a 14-year-old boy, and you keep everything else the same, I think you'd have some problems. But yeah, women almost never get charged at all when this happens.
Oh, we look at
men sometimes will get charged with. Yeah, men will sometimes get charged with child abuse or neglect or something like that. But I mean, very rarely do they bring homicide charges in these cases. The lead-in said, I don't recall one ever being brought before.
And Dwayne, I'm wondering whether or not this guy should have waived the jury and just gone before a judge. I mean, if you're facing this daunting task where the prosecution is just bringing all these sexted messages and trying to inflame the jury that you're nothing but a disgusting pervert, you might be better off just waiving a jury and letting a judge decide it.
I would have done that in a heartbeat. The problem in Arizona is who
you would think is supposed to, be a little bit more objective and not be swayed by this.
Yeah, the problem is in Arizona, the prosecution can demand a jury also, because the victim's Bill of Rights, that they can say the victim deserves a jury trial, and so you can waive it all you want. If the other side doesn't, the prosecution wants a jury trial, then you get a jury trial.
Wow. Do you know if the defense requested a waiver in this case?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I don't either, guys. I really don't.
Okay, let's get into this Billy Bush, Melania Trump, Donald Trump situation. Here's a cut, and we'll talk about it.
Did Melania wait too long to defend her husband?
He apologized to me, and I accept his apology. And we are moving on.
Melania gave 2 interviews with CNN's Anderson Cooper and with Fox and Friends' Ainsley Earhart.
But I will not allow people saying lies about me, saying lies about my family, my husband.
The First Lady wannabe is blaming Billy Bush for that notorious open mic tape.
Grab him by the I could do anything.
They were kind of a boy talk, and he was lead on, like egg on, from the host to say dirty and bad stuff.
You feel the host, Billy Bush, was sort of egging him on?
Yes.
And we're learning more about the interviews today. They took place back-to-back at Trump's luxury penthouse apartment atop Trump Tower. Notice Melania wore the same outfit in both interviews. She says there's a conspiracy to take Trump down.
All the allegations of these women coming forward, what was your reaction?
Why now? Why 3 weeks before the election? And what they're accusing my husband, that is not the person that I know.
And Melania says Trump is often the target of unwanted sexual advances himself.
I see many women coming to him and giving phone numbers and want to work for him or inappropriate stuff from women. And they know he's married. So,
you've seen that?
Oh, yes, of course. It was in front of me.
But many are asking today, why did Melania wait so long to speak out? We're learning that Trump's adult children, Ivanka, Donald Jr., and Eric, urged her to do a joint interview with Trump a week ago, right after the hot mic tape came out, just like Hillary did with Bill Clinton back in 1992 on 60 Minutes. when he was facing allegations of sexual assault that threatened to derail his first run for the presidency. But Melania reportedly refused, opting instead to go it alone.
I'm very strong. People, they don't really know me. People think and talk about me, oh, Melania, oh, poor Melania. Don't feel sorry for me. Don't feel sorry for me. I can handle everything.
Dwayne Cates, let me go to you first. What's your take of Mrs. Trump attacking Billy Bush, and furthermore, Billy Bush getting fired?
Well, I think the whole thing is just a bunch of crap, is what I think. The whole thing. I mean, anybody out there that doesn't think that this kind of stuff doesn't go on, this kind of talk doesn't go on, the bullshit and bravado of high testosterone, high alpha males, that this stuff doesn't go on, they're fooling themselves. I mean, this kind of talking stuff goes on all the time. I had a friend of mine that was a limo driver that took Charles Barkley and Jordan around Phoenix for a couple days, and the stories he told were just, I mean, incredible. I mean, Billy Bush, I believe, absolutely ambushed everybody. I think he knew these were in there. I think he stored them. I think he tried to use them for political advantage and ended up biting him in the rear. And God bless him, he can go look for a job. But I think we have a lot bigger things in this country to talk about than crap like this. But I don't feel very strongly, you can tell.
What do you make of the whole thing? And did you catch the debate?
One thing I'm thinking about is how come everybody associated with this presidential campaign, there's some sex-related allegations going on. Okay, first there's Bill Clinton with the rape and the trying to feel up women in the White House, right? Then there's Trump with he grabbed her by the pussy, the comment, and he's allegedly molesting these women on planes or whatever. Then there's Julian Assange with the WikiLeaks. He's wanted for rape in Switzerland. Most people don't know that. That's why he's holed up in that embassy, because he's wanted for rape. Then we got this Billy Bush. It does sound like he's kind of egging on Trump, although Trump is an adult. He shouldn't have been egged on. You're 59 years old. You shouldn't be egged on by a 30-year-old journalist just because you're trying to impress him. But it sounds like every single person associated with this campaign and their affiliates has got these sex-related. And then you got Melania Trump, who was used to pose naked and was even posing with other women, hugging naked in a sexual fashion. I mean, what's up with these people? Every single last one of them. But in terms of Melania Trump, I mean, look, you expect her to defend the husband. I think that her children are right. She probably should have gone on TV with her husband to try to offer a defense. Now, whether or not you think his comments are bullshit, Trump's comments are worthless and have no real significance, well, that's up for every individual to make that determination. I myself, when I'm evaluating somebody, I like to hear what they say. I like to know what they do. I do like evidence. So I like a lot of proof. But the fact that Trump made that statement, it could be that in secret all men speak like that, but unfortunately he was recorded. And it does reveal something about him. And it's a factor, one factor amongst many that I take into consideration. Just like I take into consideration WikiLeaks that have revealed that Hillary Clinton, said X, Y, and Z. I take that into consideration too. It's as simple as that.
Joe Scott Morgan, what's your take?
My take is this. I find it curious, the hypocrisy of the media in this whole circumstance. For over 30 years, the media, and nowadays you cannot separate entertainment from news. And I'm sorry, that's the reality of it. And for over 30 years, every time Donald Trump or anyone in his organization sneezed, there was a camera there. And he was promoted, shoved down our throats every opportunity that they had. Every time there was something that would come up that Trump would do, I'm thinking all the way back to the days of USFL with the New Jersey Generals. It was covered, and now, they want to sit back and act like they're God on the throne, and they can stand in judgment of what anybody does, and they're a bunch of hypocrites as far as I'm concerned. So anything that they have to say relative to anything that's going on in this election, it's for me at this point, it's been completely invalidated. I mean, absolutely and in totality invalidated. And so I just, hypocrisy makes me want to vomit, and I can't turn on the television without wanting to throw up all over it. So that's kind of the way I feel about it right now.
Dwayne, did you see any of the debate? And if so, what were your thoughts on them?
I mean, I saw the debate, and I'm having a big argument with my other lawyer friends right now about, the big thing, the big comment, which is basically a throwaway line that Trump won't, he's holding his judgment about whether he'll accept the results or not. It's like saying, okay, you know what, Dwayne, 2 weeks before the jury comes in, I want you to waive all your appeals. Well, no, I'm going to reserve judgment about what I'm going to do till I see what the jury verdict is. I mean, Donald Trump absolutely has the right to wait until the election's over, and if he's got widespread voter fraud or whatever he thinks he's got, he can bring whatever legal action he's got a constitutional right to do that. And him saying he's going to reserve judgment until this thing's over is not only, right, but it's the smart thing to do. Now, everybody's going, well, he should have said this. Or, Trump says whatever Trump says, and that's kind of why I like him, is because he's unfiltered. He may be a boorish, braggadocious, whatever other adjective you want to talk about him, but you know who he is. You know who he is. He's not hiding from you. He's not. Hillary Clinton. Every line she delivers is scripted. It's written for her by somebody else, and it's performed. Donald Trump, I mean, you know who he is. You know what you get. There's not going to be any surprises. And I like the debate.
I heard that 98% of the population in Wyoming is voting for Trump. Is that true?
Well, probably. Wyoming's got more guns per capita than anywhere in the country,
But anyway, by the way, I think Hillary Clinton, she wasted a tremendous opportunity when she was debating Trump on this point. And I think even Dwayne would agree with me, even though he seems to be supporting Trump. But anyway, when they were talking about Russia, and Hillary Clinton was suggesting that the Russians were supporting Trump and that they were leaking information, and then Trump shot back that Putin has no respect for Hillary Clinton. He thinks she's nothing, or he can walk all over. Hillary Clinton should have shot back, you know something, if Putin had no respect for me and thought he can control me and thought he could walk over me, then he would want me elected president.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want me elected president. He wants you elected president.
But the funny thing is about that the Russia argument is the question that needs to be asked is they go, you say, okay, well, what about the WikiLeaks? Well, those came from Russia. You notice that nobody's ever said that wasn't my email. I didn't write that. Their defense is, well, those were illegally gotten by Russians. And so I guess you got to believe what's in the emails.
Classic defense diversion tactics. What's the mystery there?
We're masters of smoke and mirrors. Don't look over here. Look over here.
Yeah, I've often said that these campaigns should have criminal defense attorneys working for them, not to defend them against potential criminal actions,
especially this
but
one,
just to formulate campaign strategy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, Alex, what about the part where Donald Trump threatened to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary if he ever became president? What was your thoughts on that?
I think that appeals certainly to the people that support him, they love to hear that. I mean, that's like throwing, red meat to hungry tigers. They love that stuff. But Donald Trump is not even, a president is not even authorized to appoint a special prosecutor. The only person that can appoint a special prosecutor is the Attorney General, and you have to go through a long process. So it's not like
but
Trump
he could appoint an Attorney General that would do it.
He could, but listen, even if Trump became president, he's not going to be like Stalin, who's going to turn around and start appointing all kinds of prosecutors and come up with phony show trials. I mean, his power is limited. We live in a democracy, not a dictatorship. So I thought it was rather
absolutely. Thank God.
Well, I guess
because no matter who wins, no matter who wins, we need the division of.
I guess he could order, offer up a series of executive orders, though.
Yeah, that's not going to go far. In something like that. I'm assuming you're saying that as a joke because the Supreme Court, even the Supreme Court would overturn that.
Yes, it is as a joke, and it's tongue in cheek.
Okay. Well, it didn't seem to slow Obama down, though, that being overturned by the Supreme Court, and he just whipping the pen out.
Did you? What did you think of Obama's run, Dwayne?
Think of his what?
His last 2 terms here. The last 8 years of Obama.
My taxes have gone way up. My health care costs tripled. I didn't get to keep my doctor. I didn't get to keep the plan I was on. I've got friends in Wyoming. They only have one provider there. My buddy's 56 years old, married. His health insurance is $1,200 a month with a $10,000 deductible. But he told me, thank God, at least I have maternity coverage. But I mean, it's out of control. Things are, the economy is one of the slowest growing economies we've ever had. It's been pretty dismal.
So say
I'm a supply side economics Reagan kind of guy.
You had mentioned health care. Let me tell you something. I'm a single proprietor. I own my own law practice. I don't get insurance from anybody else. I had to buy my own insurance. Well, before Obama came in, before he was elected, I was spending $25,000 a year just in insurance. This is before Obama came. $25,000 a year. And the reason and because the insurance companies, they had a hammerlock. These people they rape you. They don't give a damn if they've got control over you because independent contractors like myself are not allowed to band together to form the equivalent of like a union for the purposes of negotiating and buying insurance. That's right. You know that? In addition, that right now, the cost of pharmaceuticals, the American government cannot. They're barred from negotiating prices with the pharmaceuticals. You're not even allowed to negotiate. The pharmaceuticals create a price, and the American people have to pay it. It's a matter of who's got control. I don't want big industry and big businesses having so much power and control. I think Obama, I agree that Obamacare has got a lot of problems with it. And yes, I understand people's premiums have gone up, but I think it was at least some attempt to try to address that problem and try to provide some type of medical insurance for people. Does it need working? Does it need fixing? Does it need tweaking? Absolutely. But to go back to the way it was before, when I'm paying $25,000 a year, I'm sorry.
Well, you need to move out of New York because I'm in the same boat you are. And I don't pay that now, even though my insurance doubled.
I don't think. Where am I going to go to? If I went to Wyoming, I think I'd last about 3 days over. I don't think they.
You do okay in Arizona. Okay.
Joe Scott Morgan.
Wyoming, a New York accent in Wyoming doesn't play real well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I disappear over there.
A lot of places to hide you.
Let's hear your thoughts on Obama in the last 8 years.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. From my perspective as a forensic scientist, I know that I've had a lot of opportunities to appear on television because of a lot of violence that has occurred. Now, I don't know that can be laid at his feet, but I've seen a lot of division. I've seen a lot of anger and hatred. We're in a much more unstable environment right now. I think that we've been set back racially. Maybe not a generation, but certainly any progress that we made has essentially been erased at this point, and it's a very sad time. As far as I'm concerned, I've got a lot of people in law enforcement that are dear friends of mine that are, to be quite frank with you, they're terrified to be out on the streets, and they're terrified of what's going to happen. And anytime you get people that are working in high-risk occupations that are scared, bad things happen. And you can take an already explosive situation, put an extra layer of fear into it because of the political climate and things that have been thrown around. I've never seen the like of it. And I've got friends that are, at this point, really bright people that are in law enforcement that are seeking employment elsewhere because they're terrified of what's going to become of them. When you have police officers that have to go out and they're not being supported by their administrations, and you have to go out and say you're only making $50K a year, and you have to come out of pocket to pay malpractice insurance to cover you, just so that you can keep what little stuff that you have in this world, and that your family's not going to be destroyed financially. That's a horrible position to be in, and it's a very sad day as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, the man who shot George Zimmerman gets this amount of time. Let's take a listen.
Jinx here for Complex News. George Zimmerman, the man who shot and killed Trayvon Martin in Florida back in 2012 and was later acquitted of second-degree murder, has remained in the news since that fateful day. He's been involved in a considerable amount of controversy since the shooting, including being shot at himself in 2015. In May of last year, 38-year-old Matthew Apperson shot at the window of Zimmerman's vehicle in Lake Mary, Florida. Following the shooting, police spokeswoman Bianca Gillette told CNN that the shooting seemed to be the result of a road rage incident. Lake Mary police later reported that the incident may have been a part of an ongoing dispute between Apperson and Zimmerman. When appearing in court, Apperson's lawyer said his client was acting in self-defense after Zimmerman waved a gun at him. That defense did not hold up, with Apperson being found guilty this past August. During sentencing this Monday, Judge Deborah Nelson leveled the mandatory minimum for charges that included second-degree murder, armed aggravated assault, and shooting into a vehicle, resulting in a 20-year prison sentence for Apperson. This has sparked commentary across social media as people highlight and compare both this case and Zimmerman's highly publicized shooting and trial, where he walked away a free man. Apperson's lawyer is already planning an appeal for this case. As always, subscribe to our page for the latest, and remember to check out ComplexCon.com for updates and tickets regarding our first ever in real life experience. For Complex News, I'm Jinx.
Alex Sanchez, what do you make of the sentence? 20 years for shooting George Zimmerman, but nothing happen in terms of him getting into any.
I believe that the attempted shooting of somebody in Florida. This was in Florida, right? Where it took place? Yeah, that's the minimum term, 20 years. Remember, there was a case a while back. There was this woman who was abused by her husband repeatedly, and then he went to beat her up, and she took out a gun and shot at him, missed him, and she got 20 years in jail.
That was ultimately overturned, and I think she took a plea and got time served or something like that because it was such a fantastic outcry. But 20 years for shooting at somebody and missing them, that's a pretty substantial sentence. But again, it's the fact that George Zimmerman is in this. And a lot of people think George Zimmerman is the world's biggest dirtbag. And that's why this case was in the news. If it was anybody else, it wouldn't be in the news. But it's George Zimmerman, who basically was practically bragging about killing Trayvon Martin, was talking about selling Trayvon Martin, the gun that killed Trayvon Martin, on the auctioning it off. Now I don't
eBay.
care if you think, I don't care if you think that George Zimmerman had a right to shoot Trayvon Martin. You don't celebrate the killing of another individual, and then you don't go on the internet or eBay or whatever it is and say, hey, I'm auctioning the gun that killed a man. That says something about who you are. So that's the only reason why this case came in the news. And you know what? There's probably a lot of people that hope that or wish that man never missed his target. I'm not advocating that, but that man is hated by a lot of people. And I'm sure that a lot of people hold sympathy with the fellow that got 20 years in jail. On the other hand, we live in a civilized society, and you can't take guns and unjustifiably shoot at people.
There's a price to be paid for that.
And that man's paying the price.
Dwayne Cates, you agree with that?
Yeah, I do for the most part. I think that the minimum number one, I hate mandatory minimum sentencing. I think it's draconian. I think it results in a lot of people doing a lot more prison time than they should. I think that judges should have discretion to look at what's going on and sentence accordingly. But I mean, I've had the last 2 or 3 first-degree murder cases that I've taken that people did way less than 20 years. I mean, that 20 years is crazy for just shooting. I mean, I mean, I've got an attempted murder case that's going to be going to sentencing in a couple weeks, and it's it's 7 to 21 years, and the presumptive is 10. So the 10 is what he's supposed to get. So I think it's a long time.
In New York, if you shoot at somebody, I mean, the minimum may be 5 years, not 20, and you could always try to negotiate that down to something less, like 4 years. I represented a guy that broke into his ex-girlfriend's house, who happened to be the mother of his child, smashed the phone out of her hand so she couldn't dial 911, put a gun to her head and murdered her. And he got 17 years. And you don't do 17. You do like maybe 14 and a half years. So that's a very bizarre way of trying to address some type of social ill by having these monstrous sentences.
A lot of people, Joseph Dink probably would have liked if he would have connected with Mr. Zimmerman. But what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It seems like Alex and I always get paired when George Zimmerman screws up, or maybe it's just the fact that George Zimmerman is perpetually getting
yeah, I think that's it.
Getting sideways with someone.
He's a perpetual delinquent.
Yeah, it is. His life is one big dumpster fire that never seems to be extinguished. First off, I agree with Dwayne. Draconian is a fantastic word. I wish I'd use that. 20 years, wow. Not a lot of latitude in that. And I don't know I don't know how much of a deterrent it is. I don't know how many people will say, well, gee whiz, I don't think I'll ever engage in this. I might get 20 years. On the other hand, Alex was referring to Zimmerman. I don't think that violence should be promoted in regarding this person. However, I can say that this continued behavior promotes violence on his part, and sooner or later he is going to run afoul of, if nothing else, karma in this world. If you believe in karma, and I certainly believe in the golden rule, and he's talk about a guy with 9 lives. I was sitting there watching the clip that you sent us, Jordan, and just amazed at how many people out there that are good people that just get caught in bad situations and they wind up paying an ultimate price. This guy is just defective, and he just keeps on slipping through the cracks. It's almost like that ooze stuff that you had when you were a kid, that kind of pours through your fingers. You can't really get your hand or nailing Jello to the wall. Sooner or later, it's bound to catch up with it.
Very good point. This guy's like some horrible virus or something like that, because everybody that he comes in contact with, whether it was Trayvon Martin, whether or not his former girlfriends, remember he had some problem with them and supposedly threatened them, and then this guy, he had some type of confrontation. Everybody this guy comes near, it turns bad, and so far he's winning. So far he seems to be winning. So, we're going to need some very serious antiviral medication to get this guy under control.
Well, karma's coming, so it comes for everybody. He's had the benefit of pretty good counsel in these cases too. So Mark O'Mara's no slouch.
That's very true. Mark O'Mara did a very good job. Okay, the final story is that Derrick Rose cleared of all charges. Here's some sound.
After about 3 hours of deliberation, a jury found Knicks star Derrick Rose not guilty in a civil rape trial. The Los Angeles jury cleared Rose and two co-defendants in the lawsuit in which a woman claimed the three men raped her while she was unconscious back in 2013. The plaintiff, Jane Doe, waited 2 years after the alleged assault to file a civil suit. No criminal charges have been filed. However, the LAPD is still conducting its criminal investigation. It's not yet known if the incident will lead to Rose losing endorsements or receiving punishment from the NBA.
Last season, Steph Curry became the first unanimous MVP in NBA history and won the award for a second straight season. But the NBA GMs believe a three-peat.
Okay, Alex, from what you saw, this looked like the right and an easy decision to me. What about you?
I think the case was, a completely idiotic case to have proceeded to trial. First of all, the woman in this case did not even. First of all, there was no criminal charges ever made against any of these guys.
No.
It was the police that filed criminal charges. This was a civil case. The only thing you're concerned about is money. Then she had a former relationship with this guy, Rose. She didn't bring these charges until 2 years after they allegedly occurred. And he was with the three men that she supposedly had sex with that day. He was engaged in all kinds of texting before the alleged event took place. It seemed like
she was enjoying herself.
She was intoxicated. So
yes.
It did appear as if she had some vengeance because Rose broke up with her, and that's no place. So, the civil justice system, that's not there to mediate people's relationships. That's not what that's for.
No.
But that's what it was. No. That's what it became.
Dwayne Cates, what about you? You feel the same?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I represent a lot of people in false allegations of sexual misconduct cases all the time, and I just got to say thank God for a really good polygrapher, because polygraphs have saved dozens and dozens of clients of mine, in these kind of situations, because it happens all the time. And here's the one of the most common. People are out drinking, and some guy and gal hook up, and they wake up in the morning, and the gal walks out and has a boyfriend, and then her boyfriend goes, "Where the hell were you all night? What's going on?" And she says, "I was raped," because that gets her off the hook. And I've had that situation at least a dozen times, where it's I'm in a case right now where it's a false allegations case, and so I'm pretty up to speed on it. I've got a psychological expert that's got all the factors for false allegations, and the statistics vary, but they can be up to 50%. So just depending on whose statistics you look at. Of course, I always look at the ones that are good for me.
Believe it or not, believe it or not, I have a favorite false rape case that I represented. Now, why would I have a favorite false rape case? Well, I get this guy. He's charged with raping this woman in the van. This guy was like, 6'3". He's charged with raping a woman in the van. So I said, he gets arrested, and I said to him, listen, this woman says you raped her in a van. He says, nah, I didn't rape her. Oh, why is she making this allegation? Because she was a prostitute, and I'm having sex with her in the van, but she smelled so bad that I can't have sex with you anymore. I can't. You just stink too much. So I just got up and I said, I'm not paying you. And next thing you know, the woman turned around and had him arrested for rape.
Jimmy got paid.
I mean, ultimately the case was dismissed because it was complete nonsense. But that's my favorite false charge of rape case.
Holy goodness. That's why she got mad ultimately, I guess.
Right,
Oh, my. And finally, you, Joseph, did you have a chance to take a look at this case?
Yeah, I have. I don't know. It's almost like this whole false allegation thing is like a cottage industry now, and it's really sad because it diminishes people that actually do have horrible events that occur to them, and if you're in the public eye at the level that these people are at, and they obviously they've got tremendous amounts of cash, that they're seen. They oddly enough they kind of become the victims, and that's hard for working folks like us to understand. When you see them, but that's the reality of it. It's almost like you look at some of these people and say, do you not have a job? Or do you kind of move on, kind of like like some kind of predator where you go from one person to the next, perpetrating these kinds of things just to try to elicit cash out of somebody. Very sad set of circumstances.
Goes on too much. Okay, let's say hello to Sarah. She's calling out of Huntington Beach. She says hello on Thursday night. Sarah, you're on the phone with Mr. Cates, Mr. Sanchez, and Mr. Morgan. How are you?
Gosh, I feel flattered. I'm in the locker room. Hi, guys.
You're in the locker room.
We'll try to keep the locker room talk to a minimum.
Oh, you know what? Okay. I have to say,
animal grunt is coming. That's all
you know
I'm
what?
doing.
I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if it's my age or just the fact that I believe in equality for men and women. So language does not bother me in the least. And I think our country needs to be less bothered with language also, because we pay a whole lot of attention to it, and we need to talk about other things. But it was a coincidence that the first week of the hot car death trial, and then those audio tapes being released, I couldn't. For a second, I had to remember. Well, what am I listening to? Am I listening to the audio from Trump and Bush, or am I listening to the trial? Because the verbiage and the vocabulary was almost identical, which I found very interesting. But not to joke around or anything. I mean, because these are really, really serious issues that you've been talking about. I have to go back to the Ross case. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to prove intent. That did he really, really do this on purpose? And I just am wondering. We don't even know what the defense has up their sleeve yet, and I don't mean that to sound negative. I shouldn't have used that expression, up your sleeve. I mean what the defense will present. But I think they've done pretty well. And Joseph, you've been following the trial. Not that they're scoring lots and lots of points, but I do think they're doing pretty well on their cross-examination of the state's witnesses.
Yeah.
And
I think
go
that they
ahead.
are. Yeah, no, I think that they are, and they've got a it's a tough task to work. I mean, for the guys on the defense, and these are not high-powered guys that they have representing Harris. They don't come from a big firm with a lot of resources. These guys are public defenders that are provided by Cobb County because this guy ran out of money. So they're a lot of people might not realize this, but the people of Cobb County are fitting the entire bill. This case is almost 300 miles away from where it took place. They're putting people up in hotel rooms. They're paying for the defense, the prosecution, not to mention the judge. And it's a huge undertaking from a logistics standpoint. So, given what they have, I think the defense is doing an admirable job.
Yeah, I think they are, and also just the air of the courtroom, because for all of us trial watchers out there, we've seen so many courtrooms where there are like a million sidebars and a million objections and yelling and screaming and tempers flaring. This is, I swear, if I ever have to go on trial, it's going to be in Georgia. They are so nice and so polite, and I love the judge. Now I have to talk about the sentencing of everyone, of this man that shot at George Zimmerman. I was curious if any one of you know for a fact, did Zimmerman have a gun in the car? I mean, normally he carries a gun. That's what he always says. But in the case, was that brought up, that he had a gun in the car? I feel that the 20 minimum is really, really long, and I don't like minimum. The maximum minimum. I think a judge should have discretion, but also when we're hearing about all these other cases where the judges have like gone to the bathroom and lost their brains, and give somebody 60 days or 6 months for horrible things, there's something wrong with the sentencing all over the place, and I think something has to be done. And I don't know if my little vote in November is going to change anything, because I know that it starts with the legislature as far as changing those kinds of things, but it's a mess. Our sentencing system is a mess. And I'll let you go, but the only other thing I want to talk about real quickly is that in this case of Derek Rose, of all the details to come out, just last week, the lead detective that was handling the criminal case was found dead in her home, and they're saying it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And I just didn't know if you guys knew about that, and if you would all like to expound on anything I've said, or just tell me, okay, go away now, that's fine. But I really appreciate the opportunity to say hello to you guys and talk to you all, because I respect you all so much. So that's all.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much. It's good to hear from you.
Well, I wonder if that investigator had anything to do with the Hillary Clinton campaign. Some of those people end up with self-inflicted gunshot wounds, but I don't know. I digress.
I always got a kick. And I don't know if, Dwayne, you're in this camp of those people that believe that, the Clintons were, orchestrating murders, and that they're when they were were being investigated, because people allegedly were dying, and of course the preferred method of execution was plain accidents and people being suicided. So I wonder if, Dwayne, were you in that crowd that believed that there was some secret elite group that held allegiance to the Clintons that were going around murdering people to exterminate their evidence and their testimony?
I don't know if there is or there isn't. I sure like to spread the rumors, though. I mean, it's fun.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the program today, especially Dwayne, who hasn't been on for a long time.
Yeah, Jordan, what's up with that, man? What are you doing? I'm always on Facebook. I'm not getting any love. I thought you must be a Hillary Clinton supporter, and you're punishing me for talking up Trump.
I forgot how funny you were. We'll get you more. We'll get you back in the mix, especially you and Alex together.
You support Trump, you're going to be blackballed from the Jordan radio show.
Oh no! You got to have the, and that would prove the theory that the media bias. Say one good thing about Trump, no more Jordan radio. You're done.
That's all the evidence.
I'll never hear from you again. So
Appreciate it. All of you did a wonderful job. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Man.
It was fun.
Thanks. Good night, man.
Okay.
Good night.
Speak to everybody next week. Thanks so much, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even